We'll talk about the Turkish election as well. Don't worry. All right, we're going to get there. Here it is.
Now to a dude called Hassan, who is some sort of...
Now to a dude? What do you mean? Who would... Wait. You can't be a real news person and say something like, now to a dude? What? A dude called Hassan? Australia is shocked that names that aren't like, what do you mean? It's not like... This is not a like a nickname. This is just my name. A dude called Hassan.
Social justice warrior from America, a streamer who's in Australia at the moment. Like, we don't have enough lefties losing it already here.
What is happening? How is this real news coverage, bro? Bro, what the fuck is going on, bro? I mean, this is kind of sick. Dude, I'll be honest. This kind of went hard. I'm excited. This is awesome. Oh, these guys are fucking clowns, dude. Oh, no. Is this a fucking... When someone sent me this clip, I thought it was a joke. Like, I thought it was like a fucking April Fool's joke, dude. Sky News Australia, lefties losing it. This lady is deranged on Twitter.
He attended a pro-Palestinian protest, but while there, some of his fans were not happy with him because he was drinking Coke Zero. He wasn't being sufficiently anti-Israel. Have a look.
I'm sorry, I forgot to say you need to stop drinking Coke Zero on stream.
Why?
It's boycott.
Wait, is it?
You're preaching pro-Palestine and you're drinking all this boycott stuff. Please, Hassan, at least pretend. Do it off stream. Please.
Okay, I'll put it in a glass. I'm like very clearly laughing. Like, why would they? Is everyone becoming more autistic? A serious question. Is everyone becoming more autistic in general? Like, do we just not understand like normal human interactions that are occurring in the real world? We just have no way of like reading it. Do I have to fucking do like emotes in real life now? Is that what I have to do? I have to go /S or /JK after I make a statement? How did this happen? It's like a weird willfully autistic behavior law. Yeah, it's just so odd. And I think she was joking as well. Like, I don't think she was being super serious about this. But I do think that, like, being online, I saw someone saying Hassan nearly in tears as a fan scolds him, yet in tears laughing. Like, it was a relatively weird interaction. You know what I mean? It was like a kind of a weird interaction because, like, I'm sure she was perfectly normal beforehand. She was great. I guess, like, it's so perfect because she says, at least pretend, do it off stream. Smart to wear sunglasses so we can't see the tears in your eyes as you frown. Is Pepsi okay?
No.
No. It's so Australian. I love this interaction, dude. No. Hey, guys, can you stop talking about the other actually weird interactions on stream? Do you work for the anti-Hassan Clips industrial complex, by the way? Like, there's a reason why I'm not bringing that shit up, okay? Overall, it's a perfectly fucking normal stream, okay? My fans are my biggest haters, I feel like. Shut the fuck up, please. I mean, you see what is going on here. Shut up. She's wearing the tough shirt you wore before. That's my merch. She's wearing my merch. Okay.
No soda, son.
I didn't know it was like that.
I'm trying to stop it. He's an animal.
Yes,
Yeah. Alexa, I try to stop him. He's an animal. Like, we're obviously fucking joking. Why are these people so crazy? She's also smiling too. It's like, what is happening? Why is this like a real issue? Like, what the fuck? People are so crazy. They need to be normal. Is she joking? I can't tell. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. What? This fucking Aussie dumbass fell for April Fool's bait. We're not giving more clout to that fucker. Okay, we're not giving more clout to Australian Ian Miles Chong. Alexa is right. He wants it so bad, and he only gets it when I and my fucking dumbass community interacts with him. So I don't want to do that. All right, let's continue.
Son, at least pretend. Drink it off stream. And no, Pepsi is not okay. Now to this young lady, or I don't know, she identifies as all the pronouns.
What is happening? How is this news coverage? Bro, this is literally, dude, this is like Fox News times 10. Andrew Clennell is the lead insane from Sky News. All the men are libertarians with Asian wives. Lady, you are way more hysterical than she ever was. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Dude, I feel like AU commentators want to be Fox so bad, I just don't believe her.
He, she, they. This is M. Adams, an educator and a leader of a group called the...
Wait, they pulled an interview off this? Like, this was so serious of a news story that they're like, we're now going to an expert on hysterical SJWs, mate. Here's a lady. Like, what do you pull like a fucking Reddit moderator for that? Like, how does this work? Or is it a different story?
Movement for Black Lives.
So as Ananda mentioned, my name is M. Adams. I use all gender pronouns said respectfully.
Oh, they switched topics. Okay, then the rest of it is like what? Lefties losing it, Gaga Greens, BBC schooled. Oh, it's a different story. I hate how people create tabloids out of normal interactions you have. Australian news, especially outlets like Sky, are absolute jokes. It's all right-wing garbage. All the non-political stud is absolutely hilarious. If you want to see Aussie news at its finest, look up Dirty Dumpers. Every day is a low content day for Australia. Yeah, I think the funniest was when that Zionist lady was like, "You think Hamas is running the country? Congratulations, Hamas is running the country." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm a lesser evil voter." But obviously, that's what I personally think is like a fun interaction, and a million other like fun interactions that we had during the stream. But that's not gonna make the headlines. You know what I mean? You can copyright strike the news, become the evil streamer Reddit thinks you are. No, I don't give a fuck. This is awesome. Did you see she tried to narc on you to the cops after? Who? Oh, she did? Oh, wait, what? What's she gonna? What are the cops gonna do? Arrest me for saying I'm a lesser evil voter? That's why I'm voting for Hamas. Australia. All the right wingers are like, comedy is illegal, and then they fucking turn around. Oh, here it was. Hold on. Listen.
I'm glad that you advocate.
First of all, she doesn't even know what I advocate for. I just have a fucking Chromeo Lebanon t-shirt on, but I guess I'm taking a photo with a fan wearing the keffiyeh. So she's like, yeah, you're advocating for Hamas.
By being a massive person who doesn't fit their shit. Anyway.
So looking forward to Hamas coming to power. I'm glad that you advocate.
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Wait, Hamas is the lesser evil?
Oh my gosh, she did talk to the cops after. I didn't even recognize that. By the way, the Melbourne students you hung out with are awesome, amazing organizers. Dana and Nabil are inspirational. Yeah, dude, all the fucking people that I met on this rally stream was awesome. They were incredible. Melbourne goes fucking hard, by the way. There was an 11-year-old who literally was like, Palestinians have a right to defend themselves by bombing Israel. It was like crazy. I was shocked at how like openly they defended Palestinians, like how openly they were being like, no, unconditional support like to Palestine.
Kill less children. Hamas kill less children than Israel. They're the lesser evil. I'm a lesser evil voter. I'm a liberal.
I'm bad with like selfies.
The stream was great. Sorry for bringing up specific odd interactions. Yeah, I don't know about that low key. You don't know about what? Me being a lesser evil voter? I will defend it. Yeah, the Smirnoff and Marlboro Reds fan was the most American Aussie ever. Yeah, it was pretty crazy that they were like, that dude was just like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about Palestine. Most protests are like that. In LA, Yemen make us proud. Turn that ship around is another common chat. How do you keep your composure in situations like that? You just have fun with it. What do you mean? Bro, you make people lose sleep over what you say and do. How does that make you feel? Like nothing. I don't know. Yeah, you just have to be chill. Like you'll see. I mean, you see my normal interactions in the real world. It's like very different than online because like most people conduct themselves differently in the real world than they do online. So I love doing IRL streams. I love meeting the fans. I think those streams are awesome. This stream was great overall. What is this like? And this is also the other reason why we can't have like fucking nice things online either. Like I said, I'm a lesser evil voter. That's why I'm voting for Hamas, which is like a joke. I have no way of voting for Hamas, right? But someone immediately goes, the supporting of the lesser evil mentality is how we end up with two-party system with fake choices. No, except it's not a joke. So don't speak for others. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Just chill out. Everybody needs to calm the fuck down. Like dial it back a million notches, okay? It's not that fucking serious. The keffiyeh shop owner's reaction when you bought the keffiyehs with casino money. Yeah, that was funny. Azan could take a fat dump and blue check marks and retweeted calling it the most evil dump in history. Yeah. Does this mean you'll revisit Melbourne for content farming? I will go back to Australia for sure. Australia was incredible. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time with the Cold Ones lads. I had a great time with Laserbeam. Like they were so nice. They were so hospitable. You know, they went above and beyond to make me feel comfortable, to show me around, to get me to taste the finest delicacies. And unfortunately, Max wasn't there because like everyone was with their families. Boy and I did a thing click with you so well. Yeah, of course. I mean, I love those guys. That's like that's not even a thing. You know, those are my brothers right there. I love those guys. I thought it was funny that Chad said he wanted to hate you because like all of the fucking Twitter stuff. That's it. That's the reason. Everybody sees like the Twitter clips and then they make up their mind as they go along, and then they meet me in person and they're like, "What the fuck? This is not how I thought you were like at all." They like most people think that I'm this like super uptight. Even fans, like even people that have watched my coverage, like Laserbeam had watched my coverage during like the election, he said, but even he thought I would like be very serious. And he was like worried that I would not vibe well with Chad, who is a very unserious person who like trolls deliberately, right? Not realizing that like I am a fucking asshole and totally not a serious person at all. You literally pride yourself in your normality? Yeah, I think so. How the fuck did the Coke Zero get blown out of proportion? It's all Australian news. Nazis on Twitter talking about it like it's the end of your career. You mean how to basic? Yes. One thing that stood out was when you did the impromptu interviews and wish you had the opportunity to do more because it would have been so cool.
This guy, I know 10 children. I kind of want to interview people. You know what I mean?
Look like a doctor.
Do you mind if I interview you? Is that right? All right. What's your name, man? Mitu. What? Mitu. Yes. Mitu. Yes. What is that?
It's Maori. I'm British from New Zealand.
Okay. Nice to meet you, man. I'm Hassan.
Nice to meet you.
So what are you doing here today?
I thought his name was Mitin for a second. Dude, look at this hot ass Kiwi Maori doctor, bro. That's what I'm saying. Dude, being pro-Palestine makes you hotter. Straight up. I thought he said his name was Mitin first. I got excited. That's why I was like, oh, what? Which is a Turkish name, Mitin. Dude, yeah. Australians, people that live in Australia, people that live in New Zealand, Maori people, they're all hot as fuck. They look like fucking Jason Momoa, but then they are like doctors. You know what I mean? That's crazy to me. You know, pick one. You can't have both, dude. You can't be fucking hot, have good politics, and also save lives on a regular basis. It's bullshit. Never wear a Collingswood jersey again or socialism will fail. Anyway, but yeah, there is Australians are very sexy in general. It's kind of fucked up. I can't believe it. It's really, really, really odd how hot everyone was in like Sydney and shit, and how hot everyone was in Melbourne as well. I found that to be rather strange, I will admit. I hope you give Alexa a big hug on your way out. Content is always peak when he's around. Yes. Australia is still fatter than us, buddy. Yeah, I heard. I don't understand how this can be this one. You never watched this video, by the way. It's a fucking spectacle. It genuinely gets more insane than it is in the first glance. Yeah, I didn't watch that video because it's fucking insane. Would you go on the Friendly Geordies podcast when you go back down under? Of course. Why wouldn't I? I hung out with them.
Yeah.
So part of Healthcare Workers for Palestine, so we're doctors, nurses, allied health. We're really concerned about the attacks on hospitals, specifically targeting of healthcare workers. Never been done before in warfare. So we as health professionals, our colleagues are dying. We have to make a stand.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. What do you think about, like, overall? I feel like this is a very active, I mean, this is a very large protest overall in comparison to, like, many of the other places in the country. Does Melbourne have a larger presence?
Look, it's well connected. It's there's a lot of activism going on, and a lot of different unions are getting involved.
Yeah.
So we've got teachers, we've got different indigenous groups, Maori, we've got the Ukrainians here. So there's a really network kind of presence, and it's a determination. We've been turning up for every Sunday for months now, and we're not stopping.
Hell yeah.
Tek bildiğin cevap olumsuz. Olumlu olumsuz her şeye. It's awesome. Yarrağımı yala lan amcık. Ne var?
It's awesome. Well, thank you. Nice to meet you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, no, it was great. What's the next country is on? Dude, I did want to go back. I did want to go back to Japan, but I honestly could not be away from my daughter for too long. Like, adam eleştiri yaptı. Yarram sövme hemen. Ne biçim eleştiri lan? Gelsin o yapsın o zaman. Daha iyi yapacaksa o yapsın. It's happening. There is, in my view, without a doubt, evidence of a cover-up, says attorney Mark Zaid, who represents more than 24 clients who report experience of Havana syndrome. Let's go. Your daughter has been terrorizing Ray. I've heard, but honestly, I don't think Kai did it. I'm firm and I'm committed in my belief that Kaya did not do it. What is this?
Tim Pool getting repeatedly punched in the face wherever he goes. It's a question being asked around social media platforms with absolute.
That's so funny. Hassan, the Iranian consulate building in Damascus was destroyed. This is pretty big. Do you think this will turn into a regional war? I'm not aware of what happened. It's like, say your haters have almost poisoned your image to normies. Even Chad fell for them. You got to reclaim. First of all, Chad is not a fucking normie. Okay, Chad is not a normie at all. So him having this kind of image. Let me explain something to you. Okay, before we get into like the news, we're gonna talk about the Turkish opposition party to Erdogan popping off. But before we get into that, let me just say one last thing about the lefties losing it, boycott Coke. Okay. I would say that the reaction in my latest Fear and podcast episode, where I asked, like, what did you guys think of me when you first met me, was great. Because it showed it showed like the spectrum, right?
I think your hearts are in similar.
On the one hand, it showed Laserbeam's approach, which was someone who had watched my content but still thought, because I cover politics, that I'm a very serious guy. And Chad's approach, who definitely like he definitely is not a normie at all, right? Like the approach of someone who's like brain broken by the internet in the opposite direction. And both of them, to varying degrees, thought that I was, either like very serious all the time, or at the very least, like could not have fun, right? Like a woke scold, if you will. Which is why I always stress the importance of, to show others, to tell others that I am not like that, and that you shouldn't present yourself as such as well. You know what I mean? That's it. But most people aren't as charitable as them. Just look at the replies to any videos on other people's channels. It doesn't matter. I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about you and the way you present yourself online. Okay? You, as someone who is like a leftist or whatever, should also try to present yourself in a normal fashion online to other people as well. Okay? You should. Because honestly, we don't want people to think that we are no fun havers. You know what I mean? We like having fun. It is a genuine tenet of this community. It is something that I genuinely believe in. Okay? What is this? Important question. Being overzealous is a huge issue for me. I'm currently being tested for autism, and whenever I hear someone that rubs me the wrong way, I pipe up. I can't help it. How do I change that? I don't know. You learn to... You live and you learn. I think the other reason why, like, Chad and others don't understand that, like, me and Alexa say like unhinged shit all the fucking time to one another is because when we're saying unhinged shit, we're talking about, I don't know, the Balkan Wars, or we're talking about like how he's my devshirme, like he's my Serbian, he's my Serbian slave. I am the Ottoman conqueror. So like a lot of people don't understand that is like incredibly unhinged. It's just that like it's historically unhinged. So you need like extra reading to understand what the fuck's going on there. And it's like much easier to just say, it's much easier to just like say something edgy and have people register that as like edgy without, adding all this like nerdy ass references. So I think that's what it is. We have the most fun in California leftism. But yeah, it's more of a deep cut rather than just being an edgy transphobe. Yeah, exactly. Layers of irony and awareness is needed. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get into the actual news. Let's do it. It's so funny. Like people are still texting me. BB No Money texted me about the whole like, bro, I saw the clips, like, or not the clips. I saw the Twitter post. Like, are you okay? Is everything all right? I just wanted to check in. I'm like, yes, dude, I'm all right. I spent the last week like telling people in my life that I'm perfectly fine, and it's just like I don't know how else to describe it. It's nice that I have so many friends that are, trying to reach out. It's kind of sweet. You know what I mean? It's sweet that I have all these friends that like care, but like nothing bad has happened to me. I'm actually doing great. So yeah. All right. Without further ado, let's get to the news.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his conservative AK party have suffered a major blow in local elections. Turkey's main opposition party, the secular CHP, claimed victory in key cities, including Istanbul and the capital, Ankara. Erdogan called the setback a loss of altitude and said his party would analyze the message the people had given him. The votes are seen as a bellwether of support for the president and his increasingly authoritarian rule.
Maybe don't use that phrase so loosely. What phrase? That at the top of the hour that there's a 3-minute ad break? That's not a loosely used phrase. I just use it appropriately. I really hope to God that was an ad break debate that you were trying to do and you're not trying to fucking scold me for telling a chatter I was going to kill myself in my fucking own Discord in a normal conversation that got clipped out of fucking context. Yeah, there you go. Suck my dick. Yeah, coming in here with a fucking ad break debate at the top of the hour thinking I won't fucking utilize it on my own. Just Flum, thank you for the 521. Give the subs. Allowing 5 people no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. We're back, baby. You think? Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, you think you can catch me on that? Who? What's up? What's up, bitch? Reverse debate. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. I need Hasanabi Coke Zero merch now. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be annoying and be like, oh, I'm going to drink Coke Zero extra hard now or anything like that. I don't give a shit, okay? It doesn't matter to me one way or another. What matters is like, children are being fucking melted in Gaza, okay? Every day. While we're having that conversation, while we're at the Palestinian protests, there's like 10 kids that were just murked by Israel. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to like cry about Coke Zero one way or another. I'm saying like the way that people are like, oh, woke lefties are out of control. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Normal people don't give a shit about any of that. Okay? Normal people do care, unironically, about what is going on in Gaza. You know? Can you describe the difference between the two parties in Turkey for a newbie? I trust your perspective. Sure, I will.
Opposition supporters in Istanbul are painting the town red, celebrating the main opposition CHP's spectacular victories in local elections across Turkey. The secular party sees it as a sign that it still stands a chance at the national level against the ruling.
I mean, this is what happened last time too, and then the election came, and we were like, oh yeah, CHP and the coalition is gonna win. The anti-Erdogan coalition is gonna win, and then we ended up not winning. So, kind of sucks.
Ruling AK party.
These election results have been a response to the AKP regime's repression, to what they've done to the economy and the social structure of this country. And that's why I'm very happy now for my country.
We were very disillusioned after last year's general elections, but now being here, celebrating with people, being able to cheer, we really miss these kind of feelings. We are very happy.
And so is the man of the hour, Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. This is his second victory in Turkey's megacity. İmamoğlu has achieved superstar status in Turkish politics, putting him on the path to national power. Many see him as President Erdogan's chief rival.
The nation itself gives the order and the instructions, not just one person. Officials receive instructions from the nation. The period of one-man rule is over. As of today, it is done. The republic and democracy can go full speed ahead from now on.
The results mark the worst defeat for Erdogan and his AK party in more than 2 decades in power. The president had thrown everything at winning Istanbul, Turkey's economic and political powerhouse. He conceded the loss at his party's headquarters in Ankara.
We will not disrespect our nation's decision under any circumstances. We will stay away from being stubborn with the nation, acting against the nation's will and questioning the nation's discretion, as we have done since today. March 31st is not the end for us. It is actually a turning point.
Istanbul was where Erdogan launched his political career as mayor 30 years ago. Now many see his potential challenger following in his footsteps.
Let's bring in Sinem Aydin Düzgit here. She's a professor of international relations at the Sabancı University and also a research and academic affairs coordinator at the Istanbul Policy Center. Thanks for being with us. Now, one of the big winners in this election, as we just...
RT31'ledin artık damar GG. The biggest reason for AKP's downfall is the economy. The second biggest reason is for his decreased support is because of the conservative Yeni Refah Party, Erbakan Party, that has taken away the old hyper-religious vote away from AKP. They got like 6% of the vote away from their nationwide and higher in certain cities. I will never understand how horny like a constituency of conservative Turks were for anyone and everyone that is like even remotely religious. It blows my fucking mind that there are hella people in Turkey that are like, no, I fucking love that shit. Like, I want that. I need that in my veins. I need that in my soul. Bro, gün yüzü görecek miyiz şu lanet olası ülkede? Well, ben daha önce söyledim arkadaşlar. Erdoğan gittiği gün Türkiye'deyim. Okay? Gittiği gün. Erdoğan siktir oldu gittiği gün Türkiye'ye uçuyorum. Bu kadar basit. Geliyorum. IRL stream yapıyoruz. Parti yapıyoruz. Celebrate ediyoruz. Okay? Adana'ya da gelirim abi. Her yere gideriz. Bursa'ya da gideriz. Adana'ya da gideriz. İzmir'e de gideriz. Her yere gideriz. Which party is more against Western imperialism? Bro, what are you talking about? Turkey is a NATO country. There is no anti-Western imperialism party that is like viable in any genuine way in this country. That's like not even a thing. Turkey's survival and its like existence basically relies on NATO. That's it. Vatan Partisi anti-ABD ve Çinci. Tamam işte. Yeah, AKP and CHP are NATO adjacent parties, like pro-NATO parties. Guys, we have nukes. We have American nukes in the country, okay? When you have bases, American bases in the country, okay, with actual nukes in the country, you are out of your mind if you think that they are going to turn around and be like, yeah, actually, we've given that up. Yo, Haas, is there German Turkish diaspora participating in regional elections? AKP and Erdogan are more anti-Western imperialist. CHP is more lib and pro-West EU. Dude, if you think that Erdogan and AKP is actually anti-imperialist, and he's not just simply saying that he is, while simultaneously being America's biggest fucking lapdog, I don't know how to communicate this to you. That is a lie. You are being lied to. What do I mean by this? Okay? Recep Tayyip Erdogan literally constantly fucking talks about how Israel sucks. First, after October 7, him and the fucking coalition that he had, okay, alongside MHP and even some E party members that are not supposed to be a part of that coalition, immediately hit the anti-Arab note. I remember. Many people have probably forgotten because that shit was like months and months ago, and they very quickly changed their attitude. But in the immediate aftermath of October 7, they hit the anti-Arab button. Okay, they were like, oh yeah, if you want to fucking defend Gaza, why don't you go there? I remember. I didn't forget. I remember that. Some, even in the E Party, literally fucking said, oh, you want to defend Gaza? How about you go there? You want to be Arab so bad? Go defend Gaza. Okay, you can get the fuck out of my country. Then they saw that there was a groundswell of support, that like you had the communists and you had the Islamists all getting together to fucking say free Palestine. So they changed their narrative very quickly. Okay? They changed their narrative very quickly. Erdogan himself as well. However, one thing that you have to remember is that Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said a whole lot about Gaza now. And it said, I was getting a bunch of hate in here from Turks for that. Yeah, I said, you are behaving like America's dogs. They do not see you any differently than the Arabs. They see you also as like Muslim terrorists. I said that. That shit went viral on Turkish Twitter. All these fucking Turkish trolls were like going crazy over it, talking about how like I was a fake Turk and I was like, I was lying. Guess what? I was vindicated on that too. Hatırlıyor musunuz Türkler? İlk başta ben söylediğim lafları hatırlıyor musunuz? Unuttunuz belki. Kızdınız bana. Dedim ki eğer siz Filistin'i savunmak istemiyoruz, biz aslında Filistin'i sevmiyoruz, onların hepsi Arap dediğiniz zaman Amerikalıların köpeği oluyorsunuz demiştim. Herkes bana kızmıştı. Hatırlayın bir. 5-6 ay önce nasıl bağırıyordu Türkler internette, Ekşi Sözlük'te falan bağırıyorlardı. Ne oldu? Geldiniz benim tarafıma anladığım kadarıyla. Gördünüz yani. Anyway. Another moment of my vindication. Ben unutmadım çünkü seninle aynı düşüncelerim olduğu için aynı lafları ben de yedim. Yeah. So my point is this. It does not matter what Erdogan says. Okay, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has complained about Israel a lot. He said, you're a terrorist. Netanyahu. You are terrorist. Right? He said all the shit. Evet, dedim ki isteseler ananızın amına 10 kere Mavi Marmara yaparlar dedim, evet. I talked about a very specific act that Israel engaged in when they massacred a bunch of Turkish humanitarian aid workers in a fucking humanitarian flotilla that broke through the Israeli lines to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza, decades ago at this point. And I said that Israel could do that 10 times over to your mother's pussy if they wanted to, and that you shouldn't fucking defend Israel at all. That's what I said too. I was right. Anyway, so Recep Tayyip Erdogan says all this stuff about Israel, but it's actually ultimately completely meaningless. Why is it completely meaningless? Because he's still defending, like, there are Turkish pipelines that deliver more than 30% of energy to Israel that are Azerbaijan gas and oil. Any matter of oil and gas that goes into Israel, which makes up 30 to 40% of their entire energy grid, literally goes through Turkish pipelines. It goes through Turkey. If Erdogan wanted to, he could shut off Israel's energy right now, tomorrow. Of course, he'll never do that. That would be fucking a genuine act of war, right? That would freak people the fuck out. Erdogan's own son has shipping. Erdogan's own son has a shipping company. Erdogan's own son is shipping shit into Israel. And a lot of this stuff is known. So while he simultaneously talks a big game about like, oh yeah, Israel this, Israel that, he's still fucking shipping into Israel. His son's making money. So remember that.
Just saw is the Istanbul mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu.
I'm going to pee.
What does his victory mean for President Erdogan?
Well, I mean, I think we all have to say, first of all, that this has been a huge victory for the Turkish opposition overall. and not just Imamoglu. Of course, Imamoglu's victory means this is his third victory against Erdogan, if you consider the first two elections that he won as well, including the repeat election back in 2019. And it goes to show that this was just not a victory against his competitor in Istanbul, but his competitor was backed very strongly by Erdogan himself. He took it to the streets before the election, I think, having seen the polls, plus all of his ministers and all of the state administration that supported him. So in that sense, it is indeed a major victory, since it wasn't even a close one, but it was a 10% one. And it's a victory that is backed not just by core CHP supporters, but supporters from other political segments of society in Turkey as well, including segments of the center-right, the Kurdish communities, the more left-wing communities. So societally speaking, it is a much wider composition of the electorate than just the CHP electorate, which goes to show that he has a strong potential in Turkey and not just in Istanbul.
So this is a broad-based victory, you're saying. What were the topics that the opposition did particularly well with in this election?
Well, I mean, of course, the number one issue that you had was the economy. The economy has been doing substantially bad.
It's been so bad. It's been so fucking bad. And it is shocking to me. It is shocking to me that, like, there are still, it's like Javier Milei supporters in Argentina, except, like, you know, Javier Milei is relatively new. Imagine if, like, Recep Tayyip Erdogan's currency mismanagement and Recep Tayyip Erdogan's, like, economic policy failures had been ongoing for the past multiple fucking decades at this point. And it's like, it's so broken, it's so busted, and you still have at least like 51% support, or had 51% support for the guy regardless. It doesn't make any sense. Here's Metin Cihan's impact on the ballots abi. Seçmenlerin paylaştığı bazı oy pusulaları. Gemilerde ihanet, İsrail'e ticaret. Oh, see, there you go. Sen Gazze'yi sattın, biz de seni sattık. Gazze için somut bir adım atılmadığı sürece iktidara muhalefette oy moy yok. These are all people that are posting about, like, how they're not voting for anybody because, like, you know, these are people that are defending Israel. So it's İsrail'e tüfek yedek parça İsrail'e tüfek yedek parça ve aksamları gönderen şirketi öğrendim. TSK'ya üretim yapan Orsav Ordu Savunma Sanayi AŞ gönderiyor. Gazze'de katliam sürerken bile belgesi ektedir. AK Parti'nin gözde firması, alıcı firma Emtan ise aynı zamanda İsrail ordusunun silah üreticisi. Yeah, they're like secretly sending weapons to Israel. I learned about the company that sends rifle spare parts and parts to Israel, Orsav, which is the army defense industry, ordu, like military defense industry incorporated, which also produces for the Turkish armed forces and is sending parts to Israel, sending rifle parts to Israel. Even as the massacre continues in Gaza, the document is attached. This is AKP's favorite company. This guy, Metin Cihan, says he's an independent journalist. The buyer company, Emtan, is also the weapons manufacturer of the Israeli army. What is this? Okay, but how does it make it clear that he's pro-America? He's just an opportunist. No, doesn't make him pro-Western imperialist? What are you talking about? The only reason why Recep Tayyip Erdogan can fucking melt dudes in the northern Syrian corridor is because of America's go-ahead. He literally is. Recep Tayyip Erdogan is so incredibly fucking corrupt that he is very controllable. That's why America loves him. No matter what he says, America always knows that he is their guy. What do I mean by this? Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for example, will say things along the lines of, like, oh yeah, we are not going to let in Sweden and we're not going to let in Sweden into NATO. We're not going to let Finland into NATO unless you give me like 8 Kurdish journalists that I can execute or whatever the fuck, right? I'm exaggerating. I'm joking. But like he'll make up these like demands, right? They'll be like, oh, I'm not going to let I'm not going to let Sweden into NATO. I'm not going to vote for it. And then the next day they will open they will open an investigation into his son's like dealings, right? And then the day after, he'll be like, okay, never mind, I was just kidding. We'll vote for Sweden. We'll vote for Sweden to join NATO. So like, it doesn't really matter. None of his actions are actually real anti-imperialist at all. He is not an ideological anti-imperialist at all. He's just simply using that for votes specifically. And he has been able to tailor himself as like a defender of Turkish interests who is like anti-Western imperialist, which plays well in Turkish politics for the record. But the reality is, because he's so corrupt, he is very manageable. He's very easy to manipulate. All you need to do is open up one lawsuit in the fucking New York district, and Erdogan will shut the fuck up and will make a heel turn and do exactly what the Western interests want him to do. This happens all the time. This happens all the time. Okay? And it does not matter.
For the last couple of years, but this year has been particularly difficult for the citizens, since they also started feeling the effect of the economic reforms and steps undertaken by the government in the form of rising inflation, unemployment, etc. So they were felt, I would say, more strongly than they were, let's say, 9 months before, when we had the general election in Turkey. So economy was key. But apart from that, you have to consider that this is a local election. So candidates were also important. And the opposition, I think they did a good job of selecting the good candidates in various different districts and also in cities across Turkey. And also you had the incumbency effect, I think, what we call in the literature, for people like İmamoğlu as well, who had been in power, or like Yavaş in Ankara, and who had in fact performed quite well while they were governing the cities.
Professor, thank you very much for talking with us today. That was Professor Senem Aydin Düzgit from Istanbul in Turkey.
DW's Julia Hahn gave us a snapshot of the mood in Istanbul.
Opposition supporters here in Istanbul are celebrating victory.
Erdogan sent arms to jihadists in Syria, and the U.S. was very much okay with it. We learned this through a journalist who's in exile in Germany today. Yeah, MİT tırları. Yep. Cumhuriyet Gazetesi Genel Yayın Yönetmeni Can Dündar ve Ankara temsilcisi Erdem Gül'ün dün tutuklamasına gerekçe gösteren haber gazetede 29 Mayıs 2015 günü. İşte Erdoğan'ın yok dediği silahlar başlığı yayımlandı. Yeah, this dude Can Dündar literally fucking uncovered. MIT is the CIA, Milli İstihbarat Teşkilatı is the Turkish CIA. So he uncovered that the Turkish CIA was basically giving fucking weapons to the jihadists under the watchful eye of the United States of America. Okay? And then what did Turkey do? Well, they were like, yeah, you're going to jail. This was in 2015, by the way. I mean, this has been ongoing for a very long time. So anyone that says like Recep Tayyip Erdogan is anti-imperialist is wrong. Just something to consider. Funny, American MIT is CIA too. Yeah, but that's Milli İstihbarat Teşkilatı is like literally the official organ of the government, and not like the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is a CIA scouting ground. To be fair, I have no idea how we won so many cities. Most of the anti-AKP people in Turkey I know claim they didn't even bother going to vote. One thing I know is that AKP supporters have a tendency to punish in local elections, but they never do in the actual presidency elections. Same happened in 2019, as you mentioned. Yeah. Yeah, MIT translates the National Information Agency, NIA, I guess. I was in Turkey 2 years ago. You can literally feel and see the poverty spreading. It was shocking that Erdogan won the presidential elections last time. Yeah, because people are cucked, my man. That's it. And I think that there's another reason for it. And the other reason for it is like deep-seated corruption. Party loyalty is how people make a living, basically. As far as I understand, there's like a lot of good welfare policies, but a lot of good welfare policies are seen as like the only mechanism to get those good welfare policies, or to get those jobs, for example, is by being connected to the party. This is why you have a stranglehold in the general election, because a lot of these people are like, well, this is how I pay for my meals. This is how I pay for my the healthcare of my parents. Because there's a lot of like Turkey has, as far as I understand, a fairly robust social welfare structure, and that social welfare structure directly ties back to like AKP support. Now, of course, the opposition, this is not an opposition to like welfare at all. I would go so far as say that Erdogan has done a good job with that, as a matter of fact. I have no issue with welfare. I'm pro-welfare myself. I think robust welfare policies are a good thing overall. It's just that people need to understand, or rather, like, Erdogan supporters need to understand that, like, it's not going to go away as long as you don't vote for Erdogan. Like, CHP is the Social Democrat Party. Erdogan's party, and many people don't probably remember this any longer because this was way back in the day when they first came to power, but Erdogan was a neoliberal party. A big part of Erdogan's strategy originally was to privatize previously nationalized sectors, sell it off to foreign investment. He did that over and over and over again. He did that for years. The first decade of Erdogan's power was literally neoliberal austerity and the privatization of key sectors in the country. And I think that a lot of people forget that. Now he's become more of this like welfare guy. Okay? But he was originally, he was the original EU reformer guy. And he implemented all of the economic policies that the European leaders wanted. And I think that that was not beneficial for Turkish prosperity in general. And in that 2-decade process, he basically calcified his power. He put a lot of kickbacks and sold off major sectors to his friends. Basically created a group of like loyalists that are incredibly wealthy. Arada senin etli çiğ köfteyi de götürdü. Aynen abi, amına koyayım. And worst of all, he took away my favorite meal, raw Turkish meatballs. Turkish meatballs you used to be able to eat with actual meat. And then they were like, oh, we can't get into EU with this. Not that you're ever going to get into EU, Turkey. Let's be for fucking real for a second. Absolutely zero EU nations are going to allow 90 million Muslims to join the EU, no matter how much you say you're atheist. They don't see it that way. But yeah, he took away the meatballs. It's fucked up.
Many people are honking their car horns, they're dancing, waving flags, and they are celebrating their mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu. İmamoğlu and the secular opposition, CHP, managed to retain control over this hugely important city of
İmamoğlu, which means the son of an imam. That's his name, Ekrem İmamoğlu.
16 million people with a surprisingly large margin. Preliminary results also suggest that President Erdogan's ruling AKP lost many other cities and provinces across the country to the opposition. One explanation is that many people here in Turkey are frustrated with the economic crisis and the government's failure to bring soaring inflation under control. Inflation currently stands at more than 65%, and many people seem to have expressed their frustration at the ballot box. Tonight looks like a historic triumph for the Turkish opposition and like a major blow to President Erdogan's image of invincibility.
But Erdogan knew that this was going to happen. I suspect that this is something that he saw ahead of time, which is why he said this will be my last election. Süleyman Demirel, boş tencerenin yıkamayacağı iktidar yoktur. Which means an empty pan. There is no leadership an empty pan cannot destroy. As in, if people don't have food to put on their pans, they will topple any leadership. How has Erdogan explained the inflation problem to his supporters? I think the way he explains it is America. That's why a lot of people think that it's like, I mean, there is also some validity to that, for the record. There is some truth to that. But yeah, that's how he explains it. Dış güçler. Yeah, outside forces. Which, it's not wrong. Technically, it's not wrong either. Like, there is definitely some truth to that. There is no power that an empty pot cannot destroy. Oh my God, just click translate pose. What? I mean, I do. America bad is a common Turkish tactic because it's correct. There's also a tremendous amount of, like I said, there's an unimaginable amount of corruption, though. It's something to consider. Then there's also the classic stuff, LGBT, you got the social conservatism that they push for. All that good stuff. I mean, he is very similar to Trump and Vladimir Putin in many respects. Recep Tayyip Erdogan is very similar to Vladimir Putin. And Trump is very similar to Erdogan and Vladimir Putin as well. Like, Trump is an early variant of those guys. So, Abi election map, if you want to cover, if you want to take a look, yeah, let's do it. God damn, dude. Kırklareli, Derya Bulut. This is a crazy fucking sweep. In like all of the important parts of the country, at least. Mansur Yavaş. Listen, when I grew up in Ankara, we had, what was his name? Neydi lan? Adamın adı neydi? Ünlü. Vay amına koyayım. Adamın adını unuttum şimdi. Melik Gökçek. One of the worst mayors of all time. Dinozor Başkan. Melik Gökçek. Just the fucking worst, okay? Just the absolute worst. Mitch McConnell of Turkey, in a way. Yeah, I mean, he was incredibly... Dude, I think Turkish corruption is a little bit different than American corruption. American corruption is streamlined. American corruption is normalized. It's like legal. Turkish corruption takes it so much further than that. I think a lot of Americans forget, like, when I talk about Turkey, it's just very different. Like, absolutely. So much worse. Like, you think our situation is bad because, like, Nancy Pelosi and Paul Pelosi are, trading stocks with, like, insider information, right? But that is, like, I mean, that's nothing in comparison to what these guys do. They just take, like, millions of fucking dollars. Yeah, here's 2014 in comparison. The 2014 local elections, mahalli idareler seçimi, belediye başkanlığı seçimi, and it's just completely I mean, this was all AKP in 2014. The orange here is AKP, Erdogan's party, that he also calls AK Party. And then this is the 2019 numbers. In 2019, there was like, there was a big revitalization. CHP, for the first time ever, actually started gaining momentum. Everybody thought that this would reflect well on the general election that happened, what was it, last year? However, unfortunately, it didn't pan out, and Erdogan still won. AKP means Justice and Development Party, lol. AKP'nin neydi lan? Ben unuttum adını, amına koyayım AKP'nin. AK Parti diye. Adalet ve Kalkınma, değil mi? Adalet, Justice and yeah, it's Justice and Kalkınma is like what? Development. Yeah, Justice and Development Party. Yeah. Dem is the Kurdish party, I suspect. That's why, I mean, they got like, it's so funny. Erzincan MHP, Tunceli Dem Party. You were right, this dude is a fucking nutter. Turkey's former mayor claims officials discovered jelly bean reserves. Yeah. I know he's Turkish, but he was struggling to translate that, to be honest. Here you go. There's a ban for you. Annoying fucking asshole. Adam sen çocukken bile başkanmış. Anca 2019'da gitti. Yani sen çoktan ABD'ye taşımış TYT Twitch falan kariyer yaptığında anca gitti. Evet, benim yüzümden gitti. So yeah. How will this reflect LeBron's legacy? LeBron is going to retire in Turkey as like Allen Iverson did. That's how it's going to affect it. All right. Once Erdogan is gone, I've made a promise to the Turkish chatters. I will go back to Turkey and do IRL streams and shit. Hopefully I don't get fucking murked. I mean, this is another classic. Desolate Turkish amusement park, touted as testament to government waste. Dinozor Park. We're not going to get into that, though. This is like major memes that I've covered before. Not going to relitigate that. As an American Turk living in Turkey, basically the opposite approach as you. We love it, baby. What do you think? Do you think American CIA would be okay with Ekrem replacing Erdogan in an early election if it happened? Yes. I do think that. I think that it is probably better for American interests that Erdogan is in power, even though he's like disruptive aesthetically. He ultimately is their guy. If America allows you to reign, if America allows you to be the leader for 20 years of a country that has like nuclear American bases, that means they can control you. That means that they have confidence that you are a controllable entity. However, this does not mean that like the CHP leadership will be different. As a matter of fact, they will be better. They will definitely be, they will still be America's lapdogs for sure. It's just there will be a different mechanism of control for CHP. It'll be more like a normal relationship and not one that is like directly tied to all of their corruption. Erdogan is manageable because he's very corrupt. It's not an accident, like I said. It's not an accident that they almost always launch investigations, new investigations, anytime he does something that they don't want him to do.
As Netanyahu was speaking on Sunday, thousands were again taking to the streets of Jerusalem and other Israeli cities, calling for his resignation and the release of all hostages in Gaza. Now, the protests are still ongoing. The Israeli Prime Minister met with the family of one of the hostages on Sunday. The father of 19-year-old Nama Levy told Israel's army radio that they left the meeting, quote, disturbed and with no good news. Nadav Salzberger from the Change Generation movement is leading the Tel Aviv protests, and he told the UK's Telegraph newspaper on Sunday that the protests over the weekend were, quote, an eruption of underground currents that have reached.
They want the hostages to be released and they want the war to continue to be fair. Yeah, I mean, some do for sure. Chad, is he in Australia for real? Do I look like I'm still in Australia? That was April Fool's, baby. You got jebaited.
The boiling point, and he joins us now live from Jerusalem. Great to see you, Nadav. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Look, over the weekend we saw an eruption of anti-government protests across many parts of Israel, but your specific movement is calling for something very specific. I want you to take me through what you and your members want.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to start by mentioning the 134 hostages still held captive in Gaza, including women, elderly, and children. We are fighting and praying for their immediate release. We are a movement called the Change Generation. After October 7th, we realized that Netanyahu and his coalition have no intent of taking responsibility over the worst disaster in Israel's history. So we have taken to the streets and we formed a young movement comprised of young Israelis, reservists, and students with the goal of replacing the current government with a responsible government, one deserving of the Israeli people. That is our goal.
So you're calling for elections and a change in government, essentially?
Yes. Yeah, we're calling for election.
Over and above, of course, importantly, and the release of hostages, which is important. But you've also said something interesting, and just reading up about what your movement is about, that Netanyahu hasn't prioritized hostages. So what do you think he has prioritized instead?
I think that Netanyahu has prioritized the survival, his own political survival, and the survival of his coalition. I think that while many people, including politicians, are doing their best to try and bring back the hostages, it simply isn't enough. I think that we, as the young generation who grew up under Netanyahu, have witnessed rotten leadership, and it's time for us to step up and demand better leadership for all Israelis.
So Netanyahu has rejected calls for elections, saying that it's going to dismantle the talks that are currently underway, specifically for hostage release. We also know that Hamas has said that all hostages will be released if there's a sustained ceasefire. So what are your views on the current negotiations and, importantly, on a ceasefire?
We believe that the war against Hamas is a just war. We believe that Hamas is a threat not only to Israelis, but also to Palestinians, and that Israel must triumph over Hamas. That is why we are not calling for a ceasefire. We believe that the war needs to be fought until the end, but we also believe that we should prioritize bringing back the hostages, even if it means pausing the same way we paused a couple of months ago to bring back hostages. And we also believe that declaring a schedule for elections a couple of months from now will not hurt or damage neither the war efforts or the efforts to bring back the hostages, but rather allow the current government to act without being dependent on politics or its own survival.
Check yourself with diabetes, brother. You got to get up to pee a lot, bro. Early signs is peeing a lot. Take a day off. I actually took a shit. It was a quick one. It's so funny. I love being an Amazon employee because of my little micromanagers in the community. It is pretty fun because it's basically like it's basically like having a bunch of micromanagers be like, I timed your piss. Like, you're pissing a lot. You have diabetes. You should get that checked out. A lot of time off task happening here. Is shitting in Australia or America? No, America, 100%. Because I have bidets in my house. It's one of the worst things when I'm traveling. Nobody has fucking bidets in their homes, and I hate it. No bidets in the bathrooms in the hotel. No bidets in the bathrooms in people's houses, and it's like I feel like I can't poop without a bidet. It's not rich guy shit. It's not. It's like $30, dude. It's not like a bidet is just like $30. It's also funny when people say rich guy shit because pretty much the entirety of the global south uses a bidet. So that's what's really funny. It's like infinitely poorer people on the global economy. Like, every toilet in Turkey has a fucking bidet in it. What do you mean rich guy shit? It's like pretty funny to be like, wow, oh man, I can't believe how fucking wealthy you are with your fucking bidet. And it's like, it's $25, man. Bidets are way more normalized in Chinatown, Asiatown neighborhoods. When I moved to a house with a place, big Vietnamese population, my place had those. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, families of hostages, we've heard just harrowing stories of the uncertainty that they're experiencing. I want to turn now to the UN Security Council resolution that within it said that famine is setting in Gaza right now. From what we've been seeing and Netanyahu's policies essentially of not allowing enough aid into Gaza has gotten a lot of criticism from aid organizations. They're describing dire realities. From your perspective, how are you viewing this? And does this worry you and your members, importantly?
Again, I think we are worried for our future in Israel, for the future of the region. I think that what we have seen yesterday in Jerusalem are hundreds of thousands of patriots going to the streets and demanding a better future. I think we are done waiting for politicians to make things.
Damn, dude. Really? That's it? Like, no. Like, that's what you got for the aid stuff? Give us a little bit, man. Come on. Give us a little bit to be like, yeah, it's really fucked up. Because, like, there's a liberal Zionist line here. Here, I'll tell it to you, okay? Here's what you are supposed to say. You're supposed to say, no, I know, I heard he said he doesn't want the war to stop. I know. He doesn't want to disrupt the war efforts. Okay? Which already is, like, bad. What you're supposed to do is say, I think that in order for Israeli security, for Israel's security interests in the region, Palestinians have to be able to live freely. Okay? Palestinians have to be able to live freely, and obviously disrupting aid is not only bad because it, makes us look bad in the eyes of the Western world, but it also is bad because it's starving at the Palestinians and making them more radical to Israel's existence in the region. That is the liberal Zionist line, but I do think that many liberal Zionists have like gone beyond that, especially ones in Israel. No, this is not about conscience. No, I'm talking about it. No, guys, you don't understand. This is strategic. Okay? These guys are not even defending Israel's interests and hitting the two-state solution line. They're just basically saying, we don't want Netanyahu to continue the war. We want our guy to do the war. Okay? That's ridiculous. They want an even more one guy? No, what you're describing is a line that basically doesn't exist anymore in Israel. There's like 11 people that are concerned with Palestinian livelihood. They will inevitably turn to that direction. I was right in the past, and I'm right on this as well. Okay? I was right in the past on this, and I'm currently also right. History will vindicate me on liberal Zionism being the way forward for Israel. They will have to re-maneuver back to liberal Zionism, either by force or, I don't know. I mean, they are going to have to do that. There's no way that they can continue being as genocidal and continue demanding support from the Western world. Check my logs, damn it. You are unbelievably wrong. Dude, it's 12:52. Shut the fuck up. And for the record, the Israelis that are in this chat aren't liberal Zionists, they're anti-Zionists, okay? So don't give him that shit either. The 4 Israeli leftists that are in this chat are not fucking liberals at all. They are communists and socialists. They are probably even more communist and more socialist than you are. Okay? That's very different. I'm talking about liberal Zionism as like the center-left Israeli policy in an effort to get more support from the Western world as Israel's apartheid continues, as Israel's genocidal campaign continues. I think a lot of people don't personally understand in Israel that, like, you know, their attitude may have shifted. Their attitude on the Palestinian question may have shifted to Hitlerian politics, but the rest of the world looks at that and goes, that's Hitlerian. Stop doing that.
It's better. I think that we need to make them better, and that we, the young people in Israel, are the generation that will bring change to the region and to Israel. Yeah, and I think that I know that we plan on continuing our protest.
All right, Nadav Salzberger, great to have you on. Thank you for taking the time. CNN is also learning that senior US and Israeli officials will meet virtually today to discuss Israel's proposed ground offensive in Rafah. A US official says the two sides are still working towards an in-person meeting on the issue. Face-to-face talks were abruptly called off last week by the Israeli Prime Minister after Washington refused to block a UN resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu.
What is this? The Israeli the Israeli Labor Party is not a thing, okay? There is no real Labor Party in Israel. And also, the Israeli Labor Party is not even remotely liberal on the position of Zionism or even on the position of like Palestinian existence. The president of Israel is a Labor Party member who literally has said some of the most unhinged shit. Okay? They're not even popular. They're nothing. The president of Israel is a Labor Party member who has famously also said genocidal things in the aftermath of October 7. And not only has he said genocidal things, he also has said other shit like talking about miscegenation among Jews and non-Jews and how that's a bad thing. And that was way before October 7. So these guys are like, I would say the frequency which you use Zionism as a negative catch-all is extremely problematic and promotes monolithic ideas. No, the only monolithic idea is at the top of the hour, you think that you can fucking hit me with a 3-minute ad break. Okay? Don't even try this shit with me. Okay? It's ridiculous. These baits are ridiculous. Okay? At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. Wait, what? No, this guy was being serious. Zionism is a catch-all. Zionism Zionism as a catch-all means that Israel must exist as a Jewish majority demographic ethno-state. Okay? That's it. Which is why it doesn't matter if you're liberal. It's like saying I'm a liberal fascist. I thought he was fucking baiting me. Turns out he's not baiting me at all. He was being serious. Anyway, the top of the hour is a catch-all, though, for those who haven't subscribed for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. The people who had opposition to Zionism in the early development, or the opposition to the way that like Israel has developed itself in the early days of Israel, like Einstein, would be considered anti-Zionist by today's standards for their criticisms, even if they originally considered themselves to be Zionist. Okay? There are plenty of early Zionists who then, King Henry IV, thank you for the 20 community gift of subs, by the way. I'm going to run the 3-minute ad break now. There are plenty of people who originally called themselves Zionists who now abhor that designation. And the reason why they think it's abhorrent is because they recognize that there is no way to do Zionism without settler colonialism, settler colonial occupation, and the maintenance of a demographic Jewish majority ethno-state. There are ways to be Zionist in Israel just the way you can be socialist and critical of the U.S. I have not seen what this way is, the way you're describing it. Okay? I don't understand it. I'm not saying that the settler colonialism isn't abhorrent, just as some people wouldn't criticize that. What? I mean, I am an American. I'm an American citizen. I love America. I love the promise of America. But what do I am incredibly critical of America's imperialism. I'm incredibly critical of America's hyper-capitalist policies and how it kills Americans on a regular basis. The difference is I'm very open about my criticisms, and that, like, if I was in Israel, if I was an Israeli citizen, my counterparts in Israel are people who call themselves anti-Zionists. Okay? They do not call themselves liberal Zionists. They call themselves anti-Zionists. They understand that Zionism is about the maintenance of a Jewish demographic majority ethno-state. This means this means that there's a constant struggle amongst those who want to exist inside of Israel, or those who live under the colonial occupation, that will never get full-blown rights. So I'm not caught up on this distinction. I don't care about the distinction, because Zionism is fascist inherently. If you want there to be a ethno-state, if you want there to be an ethno-state, a Jewish ethno-state in Israel, that is an inherently fascist idea. The only difference is it's just like the in-group is Jewish rather than white, so it doesn't translate in the same way to Americans. They don't really fully get it. Zionism doesn't call for a Jewish majority, but the right of Jews to live peacefully in Israel. Yeah, except in practice, that is about maintaining a Jewish ethno-state. In practice, you're using the conservative definition. No, I'm using the realistic definition. I'm using what has happened. That's it. That is a inevitability. People say, oh, it's about like Jews living safely in Israel, except it started off with the Nakba and a settler colonial project, and it has never stopped. It has only continued to get more and more reactionary as time has moved on. You know what I mean? So liberals in America might try to desperately change the narrative and say, like, no, that's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. If Zionism is fascist, the U.S. supports them to the fucking hilt. What does that make us? Fascist. I would never say that America's imperialist endeavors are not fascist. They are. The fuck? Yes, American imperialism is disgusting. It's deadly. It's devastating. But, like, we're talking about a literal apartheid state that is desperately trying to maintain its apartheid regime while simultaneously engaging in an ethnic cleansing campaign. I think, like, it's like having a conversation with like liberal Germans or something. Like social democrats in Germany in like 1938 being like, no, you don't understand. Like there are still plenty of people who don't like the National Socialists. We just don't really have any other way to, stop this Lebensraum policies of the National Socialist Party. Unfortunately, I think you're wrong on the Israeli moving towards the American version of liberal Zionism. No one inside Israel understands why the rest of the world hates them, and they think they're the normal ones. You're right on everything else you said, though. Yeah, no, this will take time for them to reposition, and America will continue doing PR in that regard. It's crazy you don't acknowledge the large contingent of Zionists who want a chill and fun apartheid. Anyway, let's continue.
Says U.S. pressure will not stop an Israeli ground operation in Rafah.
We will go into Rafah and eliminate Hamas battalions there for one simple reason. There is no victory without entering Rafah, and there is no victory without eliminating Hamas.
Here. Statement from the Special Ops Vets for Democracy. We know Netanyahu well personally. The thing that scares him the most is anger crowds in the streets. It is our job now to give it to him. He's hiding and illegitimate. He's not fit to order warriors to battle. He's not fit to order warriors to battle. The anti-Netanyahu protests in a nutshell. The problem is not that their leader is presiding over a genocide or that their colonial state and ethno-national society are oppressive and evil. Is that they deserve a better warlord. I support the anti-Netanyahu protests insofar as I support internal division and instability that weaken the settler colonies' resolve and competence. Here's another take that I want to show you. Matthew Noah Smith says, I'm Jewish, so I'm disposed to love fellow Jews in Israel, especially my family and friends that live there, and to love the family and friends of people who are a part of my Jewish community here. Then I see the poll results about Israeli attitudes towards the suffering of Gazans, and I'm disgusted. This is very important to understand. I know Giannis was on Majority Report today. He's going to be on my stream soon, too. To what extent should Israel take into consideration the suffering of the civilian population in Gaza when planning the continuation of the fighting there? October 23rd, 83.5% of Israeli Jews said to a fairly small extent or not at all. December 23rd, it was 81%. There has been a 3% shift only since October 23rd, 3.5%. 80% of Israeli Jews still believe to a fairly small extent or not at all that Israel should take into consideration the suffering of the civilian population in Gaza. Okay? What's wild here also is that 23% of Arab Palestinians living in Israel said that they care to a fairly small extent or not at all. I don't understand how the fuck that works, but what do you think of the Samson option exposed by Shimon Peres and the plan of Israel destroying everything with their nukes? Yeah, I mean, that's you can't keep that in consideration. Even the Jewish left in Israel is split. 40% of the Jewish left says not to take the suffering of Palestinians into consideration when planning the war. The inhumanity of this opposition. Babies are starving, and nearly 50% of the left thinks this doesn't merit consideration. Suppose the U.S. tried to prevent famine and drought. Oh, yeah, you're right. Elent is correct. It might be like the Druze, maybe. Suppose the U.S. tried to prevent famine in Gaza by making a half-assed effort to save the lives of starving children and babies whose crimes was to be born in the wrong place in the wrong time. Guess what? Most Israelis think that weakens Israel's bargaining power. President Biden has announced that the United States intends to construct a jetty in Gaza to facilitate a supply of humanitarian aid. In your opinion, how will such a step affect Israel's bargaining power vis-a-vis Hamas? On the Israeli left, 43% think it's strengthening Israel's bargaining power. 31% say it's weakening Israel's bargaining power. On the center, 54% say it's weakening Israel's bargaining power. And on the right, 67.5% think it's weakening Israel's bargaining power. I believe you read the graph wrong. Wait, what do you mean? What did I read wrong about this? 80% of the Jewish population of Israel, it's socialism or barbarism. Thank you for the 10 community gifted subs. 80% of the Jewish population of Israel, remember, this is Israel's own demographic percentage numbers. Obviously, it's not mine. Israel itself says you're either a Jew or you're Arab. Even though there are Arab Jews, Arab Jews are classified as Jewish under Israel, under the Israeli standards. Okay? When Israel says someone is an Arab in their polling, they're talking about Christians and Muslims. Arab Christians and Arab Muslims are considered Arab. Arab Jews are considered Jewish because it is a Jewish ethno-state. Read the legend, the blue color. Yes, to a fairly large or very large extent. Yeah. What I don't really like is that you insist on calling USA fascist. There are pretty clear definitions on proto-fascism, and the US does not really come close to it. It hurts your valid arguments. Just call it what it is: neoliberalism, conservatism, capitalism, etc. Fascism is capitalism in crisis. Capitalism inevitably leads into fascism. When capitalism cannot reinforce the mechanisms of control, fascism kicks in to implement some kind of order that maintains the continuation of the capitalist order of the economy. American imperialism, in the way that it manifests globally, is pretty similar to fascism in general. Just because America is not doing it because they're like, oh, we believe in like a white American future, and that's why we're invading Iraq, it doesn't change the reality for those who are being butchered and slaughtered on the ground. I understand what you're trying to say. I get it. But colloquially speaking, there is it's a distinction without a difference. Capitalism inevitably degrades because it needs consistent conquest. It needs new vectors of exploitation in order to consistently generate better profits or increase profit margins. Okay? And inevitably, you increase the living conditions, you improve the living conditions of the places that you are exploiting, and you are looking for, as you are looking for new vectors of exploitation, you turn domestically to new vectors of exploitation, and you hyper exploit your own base of support internally, which has happened in America. I mean, our entire industry is basically wiped out of any sort of manufacturing capabilities, and it's mostly just the service sector industry. It's mostly gig economy jobs. And when that happens, there's instability domestically, and that instability domestically has to be stopped. How do you stop that instability? You take advantage of the volatility by pushing more and more fascist policies, like incredibly reactionary white nativist immigration agendas, incredibly militant and draconian prison carceral structure, so that you have a steady flow of slave labor, which is constitutionally allowed according to the 13th Amendment. And you slowly but surely move in the direction of fascism as we understand it. Israel, in its demographic interests, is, of course, closer to fascism, if not complete fascism, than the United States of America is, as though, because there is no like direct imperative, at least now, in the United States of America to like aesthetically create a white ethno-state, a white majority ethno-state. That just is a byproduct of our anti-immigrant policies that just kind of happens to be that way as we bring more and more people under the banner of white. Anyway, you say, it does weaken Israel's bargaining power. First, this worldview is morally bankrupt. Second, it's not clear that Hamas gives a shit, and according to Israel's own justifications of their war, Hamas doesn't. Third, you fucking monster. The plurality of Israeli Jews want unconditional support from the U.S., so liberal American Jews hand-wringing about Bibi and the suffering of Gaza is purely to ease our own consciences. The plurality of Israeli Jews probably just want us to shut up. What should Israel do? Act in coordination with the Americans or act in accordance with the judgment of the Israeli leadership? 43% of Israeli Jews say act in coordination with the Americans. 49% of Israeli Jews say act in accordance with the judgment of Israel's leadership. The problem is not Bibi and Israel's right-wing coalition. The problem is deep and runs throughout much of Israeli public. There's not much left about Israel that I can love. Also, fuck all you anti-Semites who would weaponize this. Polling data here. Postscript. It's wild that Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is fairly middle of the road for a Democratic senator, wants more action to protect human rights. than many on the Israeli left. Perhaps there will be a genuine split between Israel and the Dems here in the U.S. I think there will be. I cannot stress enough that it is possible for Israel to fight Hamas in a less careless fashion. To Israelis who I have no right to speak because I'm not Israeli, I say you have no right to speak of acting for all Jews because you're not diasporic Jews. Stop justifying a war by saying you act not for all of us, you act for yourselves. If you insist on protecting my American family as a justification for killing Palestinian families, then you directly implicate me in war. You give me standing to speak. Anyway, Jesus Christ is Benjamin Netanyahu, and the IDF that continues to raise them towards Palestinians. There's no two ways about it. I think a lot of people, understandably, don't want to recognize that this is a problem that is deep, embedded in the minds of many Israelis. Okay? It will change, and it inevitably will change. It will be forced. Israelis will be forced to change their attitude and the way that they conduct themselves in the global stage as a consequence of like Western support diminishing for their genocidal campaign as it has post October 7. But it's going to take a while. But I don't understand how people still go like, oh, this is not real Zionism. It's different. This is Zionism.
Hamas battalions there.
All right, well, talk's back on, and I want to head to Washington now and bring in CNN's Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, I want to get into, what the US has repeatedly said, and it's warned Israel about a siege into Rafah. In this virtual meeting aimed at Netanyahu, do you think that he's going to be able to convince the US that they have a workable plan? Can the US be convinced of a Rafah operation?
Well, the answer is that it really depends, because as of right now, the U.S. is extremely skeptical, and they have been urging Israeli officials, including in talks with the Israeli defense minister last week, to come up with an alternative plan, one that is not what the Israelis have been planning, such as a large-scale ground operation into Rafah that could endanger the over 1 million Palestinians that have sought shelter there over the last few months. And what the Israelis are saying is that, look, we need a way to eliminate these remaining Hamas battalions. And the U.S. is responding, well, you could go after them with a more targeted approach, something that targets more senior figures in Hamas rather than going in and doing an all-out assault. And so I think what the U.S. is still waiting to see from the Israelis is a concrete plan to move those civilians out of the area. And that is something that Israel has not been able to provide them with yet. And until they do, until they provide some kind of blueprint for how they're going to get those people out of that area, perhaps allowing them to move back north, then the U.S. is really not going to be on board with this. Now, among the proposals the U.S. has given to the Israelis is to ramp up talks with the Egyptians to try to seal that border so that Israel can conduct these more precision operations targeting these senior Hamas leaders without the possibility that they're just going to then escape, of course, across the border into Egypt. Of course, another aspect of this is that really targeted operation that the U.S. says that the Israelis should try, and that's something that they have been pushing them to do for months and months instead of doing these large-scale operations that really do endanger the civilians there. But the Israelis are going to do what they're going to do, and that is the message that we got last week in talks with Israeli officials, is that they are going to do what they believe is best for eliminating the remaining Hamas battalions in that area. Now, whether there are any consequences for the Israelis ignoring the Americans' advice, that remains to be seen, because we have seen that the U.S. has continued to provide them with weapons, with intelligence to help them prosecute this war against Hamas. And so the question now is, are there any red lines here? If the Israelis do move forward with this operation in Rafah, how is the U.S. going to respond, especially if it's in a way that the U.S. has explicitly advised against? Eleni.
How can you say that the fascist state will change? Not every action will be rational under that structure. No, I'm not saying that the practice will change. I'm saying that I'm not saying that the practice of fascism will change. I'm simply stating that in order to maintain an apartheid, the outward communication of Israeli apartheid will have to go back to liberal Zionism and like talking about a two-state solution. And if they don't do that, then, it's already destined to fail. But now more so than ever.
Iranian state media
Speaking of
says,
which, by the way, here, Israel is accused of deadly strike on Iranian consulate in Syria and Damascus. We're going to take a look at that as well.
suspected Israeli strike has destroyed an Iranian embassy building in the Syrian capital Damascus, with the senior commander in the powerful Iranian Revolutionary Guard among those killed. Israel hasn't commented on the incident.
Did you seriously say apartheid? Yes, I did. Are you new here? Yes, Israel is an apartheid. That's in South Africa, right? No. The one in South Africa ended. Israel still has one. Like 100%. And that's just not my singular assessment. You have to be voluntarily closing your eyes and shutting your ears to the reality, considering that the guy who successfully defeated the apartheid in South Africa considered Israel to be one. And not only that, but also, B'Tselem, an Israeli human rights organization, also calls correctly Israel an apartheid regime. Human Rights Watch calls Israel an apartheid regime as of April 2021. Amnesty International calls Israel an apartheid regime as of April 2021. Israel is, without a doubt, definitionally an apartheid state. Saying Israel is not an apartheid is akin to saying, well, actually, this person that you're calling a Nazi is not a National Socialist party member in 1938. It's a Dutch word. Its meaning is rooted there. It doesn't matter where the word's roots come from. What matters is what it is. Okay? I don't know what kind of semantic purgatory you're engaging in here. Okay? I can't tell if you're trolling or not, or if you're genuinely confused. Okay? But in simplest terms, it's a system of a two-tiered system of rules and laws and governance. Palestinians living under occupation in occupied West Bank live under a military regime. They go to military courts. They have different license plates. Their freedom of movement is restricted. Palestinians living in Gaza are, once again, restricted by the Israeli state. All of this is well documented.
These are the latest pictures we have of the scene. Iranian state television is reporting the scene.
They're definitely occupied, but not apartheid. Not an apartheid / not a genocide. It absolutely is a genocidal campaign, and it absolutely is an apartheid. I don't understand why people are going this far. I don't understand how people can try to say that that is not the case. Okay? I don't really know what the reason for why so many people are saying this. I actually don't get it. I have seen it. Is there I wasn't live for a couple days as frequently as I am. Is that where a lot of people got radicalized in the opposite direction or something? Is that what's going on? I have yet to hear anyone bring up a valid retort. They just say, no, it's not, and they move on.
Senior commander is Reza Zahedi, who led the Palestinian division of the Revolutionary Guard Quds Force. The UK-based war monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, says at least 8 people have died, but as yet there's no official confirmation of the figures. Iran's ambassador and his family are reportedly unharmed. Well, let's get the latest from our correspondent in Jerusalem. That's Hugo Bachega. Hugo, what more are you hearing about this incident?
Yeah, Anita, so this is a very significant escalation. So again, as you said, Iranian and Syrian state media saying that an Israeli airstrike targeted the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital, Damascus. And now reports suggest that the senior commander of the powerful Iranian Revolutionary Guards, Mohammad Reza Zahedi, was killed. So very significant, a high-profile member of Iran's Revolutionary Guards reportedly killed. So
it's not apartheid because Palestinians are not black. Still very sad what's happening there. I can't tell if you're trolling or not. That's not how that works. Like, I've never heard that one though.
we're hearing now these accusations. We haven't had any kind of reaction from Israeli authorities. We know that over the last few years, Israel has carried out attacks targeting positions and also members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. But it's very rare for the Israeli authorities to acknowledge involvement in those assassinations. So again, very significant development. We've seen that these targeted assassinations have been happening frequently since the beginning of the war between Israel and Hamas. Hamas obviously is a group that is supported by Iran. It is part of Iran's so-called axis of resistance, and we are having a reaction from Iran already. The Iranian authorities are saying that they're going to give a decisive response. So again, a very significant development. It seems to be a very significant escalation as well with this attack.
Hugo, thank you very much for that. Hugo Bachega there. Let's talk now to Faraz Maqsad, who is a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute, about this story. And Faraz, Hugo describing this as an escalation. Do you see this particular strike as an escalation of what's been happening?
Well, there's no doubt about that, Anita. I think some might want to sort of write this off as part of sort of the ongoing operations that Israel has been conducting against both Iran and some of the Iranian proxies operating out of Syria, namely Hezbollah. There has been very senior Iranian commanders killed in the past, including one major strike in December. However, this is the most senior Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander to be killed to date. And I think very importantly, what differentiates this is that essentially the Iranian consulate in Damascus, which is under international law, Iranian territory, has been flattened. So some major escalation here on behalf of Israel. Of course, the Iranians have a preference to taking the war to Israel via proxies, indirectly using Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and others. The Israelis here retaliating in a more direct fashion, willing to risk that escalation.
Yes, and of course, we're waiting for absolute confirmation that...
Yeah, willing to risk that escalation. I mean, they keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I personally think that Israel doesn't think that Iran will retaliate. Whether they are right or wrong in their opinion, only time will tell. However, I mean, bombing Beirut, which happened months ago at this point, and bombing a Iranian consulate in Syria. Iran just confirmed all 7 killed were IRGC officers, including the head of the IRGC Quds force in Syria and Lebanon and his deputy. IRGC confirms Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, Brigadier General Mohammad Hadi Haji Rahimi, 5 other officers, Hussein Amanullahi, Sayed Mehdi Jalalati, Mohsen Sadakat, Ali Agha Babei, Sayed Ali Salehi Ruzbahani were killed in the airstrike in Damascus, the Israeli strike in Damascus. The Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi was known as the head of the IRGC Quds force in Syria and Lebanon. Brigadier General Mohammad Hadi Haji Rahimi was his deputy and replacement. Others killed also reportedly include IRGC QF Chief of Staff for Lebanon and Syria. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're high-profile targets or not. You just can't, like, blow up a fucking embassy. It's not something that you are allowed to do unless you're Israel, in which case you are allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. Let's be real.
Mohammad Reza Zahedi is amongst the dead, but that is certainly the report that we are getting. If we look at these images from the scene of the explosion, I'm going to ask our director to pull up those images for us. As far as we know, what we're seeing here is part of the consulate, but the buildings on either side appear relatively undamaged, so it does seem to have been a very precise strike.
Yes, Israeli precision in going after these individuals, whether they be in Syria or even in Lebanon, has been quite remarkable. What has also been remarkable and noteworthy is the fact that the Israelis have quite powerful operational intelligence. They know where these commanders are. They went after several senior Hamas and Hezbollah commanders in Lebanon, targeting them within meetings, target them in their own private quarters. And so that raises quite a bit of questions and concerns in terms of operational security for Iran and for these groups in terms of Israel's ability to get to them.
OK, Faraz, thank you very much for your thoughts on this developing story. Faraz Maqsad from the Middle East Institute. And let's get more now from our international editor, Jeremy Bowen, who is in northern Israel. Jeremy, hello to you. And I'd like you, for our viewers, to put what has happened in Damascus into the wider context of what's going on in the region, especially since the war between Hamas and Israel.
Breaking drone activity over southern Syria reports Iranian suicide UAVs targeted the U.S. base in Al Tanf. Drone alert also reported in the Golan. Israeli airstrikes reported in Yarmouk Basin in Daraa moments ago. It's probably linked to the drone infiltration alert over Golan in Syria. I'm amazed at the world-leading intelligence that managed to find out that the Iranian officer was located in the Iranian consulate. Feeling more and more like we're approaching September 1939. Yeah. For the record, I mean, technically, an embassy is the soil of a foreign country. So Israel is like, I mean, this is the closest you can get to striking Iran without actually striking Iran. But yeah, them showing the strike in Damascus and saying how precise they are basically admitted that Israel can be precise in Gaza if they wanted to, but choose not to. I mean, we already knew that. Of course. That's why I always say they are being discriminately indiscriminate.
Well, essentially, there's been an increasingly serious war going on over the Israel-Lebanon border between Israeli forces and Hezbollah, which is the political militia movement, dominant one in Lebanon, which is very close to Iran, also very close to the Syrian regime. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that so much has been happening in Gaza in the war since October the 7th, I think there'd have been a lot more international attention on what's been happening here. And of course, there are connections. That's why it's going on. So what we've been hearing here this evening, there's been quite a lot of air activity going up towards Lebanon. The border isn't too far from here. And I think what's been going on, as you've been hearing, this is an escalation by Israel. I think they're testing the resolve of both Iran and its clients, its allies, Hezbollah particularly in Iran, to see how they will respond. Because while they have been engaged, Hezbollah particularly, in a tit-for-tat series of increasingly fierce exchanges with Israel, they've always kept it within what in this part of the world is sometimes referred to as the rules of the game. Hezbollah going after military targets, but Israel seems to be pushing it to move to the next level quite repeatedly, and this is a big upward step. So now the big question is, given that the Iranians particularly are keen to restore the deterrence they feel they've been building up against their enemies. In other words, their enemies.
I think the theory is that the embassy being the soil of territory that was abandoned in international law, it's still pretty bad. Here is CNN anchor Jim Scuito, who's their NatSec analyst, saying, on the Damascus strike, IDF spokesperson tells me no comment except, according to our intelligence, this is no consulate and this is no embassy. I repeat, this is no consulate and this is no embassy. This is a military building disguised as a civilian building in Damascus. Iranian ambassador to Damascus says Tehran's response will be harsh on the Israeli strike. It's hilarious because these actions would literally consider an act of war, and the U.S. and politicians and citizens would be freaking the fuck out if the country bombing embassy consulate wasn't Israel. Yes. More on this from the Al Jazeera correspondent.
Ali Hashim now. Ali, you have covered the region extensively. Iran's state media has confirmed that Mohammad Reza Shahadi of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has been killed. What do we know about him?
Well, Mohammad Zahidi is one of the most senior IRGC commanders. He used to be, before being dispatched to the region, to Lebanon and Syria, he was also the head of Iran's area, the IRGC's aerial forces, the ground forces. He took several responsibilities over the past years. However, he's been in and out in Lebanon since the 80s and 90s, and was said to be the head of the IRGC in Lebanon. Now, meaning to be the head of IRGC in Lebanon means that he's in very close coordination with Lebanese group Hezbollah. And
why does Iran support Palestine? Don't they hate Sunni Muslims? Iran supports Palestine because they correctly identify Israel as an extension of American imperialism, and they hate American imperialism, Western imperialism in general. So they don't give a shit. There's also no like real distinction. They don't hate, Iran doesn't hate Sunnis. They don't like Saudi Arabia. And the actual, I guess, political battle is fought over that as regional actors. But beyond that, it's not like they see Palestinians as a decent way to try and destabilize Israel. And regardless of their own personal motivations, it doesn't fucking matter because they're on the correct side on this issue. The Iranian government is not on the correct side on many issues, especially as it pertains to their own domestic politics. But on this issue, they are on the right side.
Damn, this guy's good.